Welcome to our lectures. Today we will discuss the transport across plasma membrane. As you know, the internal composition of the cell is maintained because the plasma membrane is selectively permeable structure. The plasma membrane forms a barrier that blocks the free exchange of molecules between the cytoplasm and the external environment of the cell. Most biological molecules are unable to diffuse through the protein-free phospholipid bilayer. Some nonpolar molecules such as oxygen, carbon dioxide readily dissolve in synthetic lipid bilayers and therefore diffuse rapidly across them. Some uncharged molecules like hydrogen and urea. These molecules actually also diffuse through a synthetic lipid bilayer. By contrast, synthetic lipid bilayers are by contrast to these molecules like sodium, potassium and chlorine, these molecules cannot diffuse through the plasma membrane, so these molecules are highly impermeable. So these molecules cannot move through the cells, through this plasma membrane. However, the plasma membrane, unlike synthetic lipid bilayer, allows the passage of various polar molecules such as ions, sugars, amino acids, others, etc. Special classes of transport proteins like carriers and channels are responsible for transferring these molecules like sodium, potassium to move inside the cells. So there are actually the proteins which are responsible for the transportation of these molecules. So we will discuss these proteins one by one. There are actually the proteins like carriers, like carrier proteins. There are also the proteins which are present in the plasma membrane. So those proteins may act as receptors, and some proteins may act as enzymes, and some proteins may act as channels. So we will discuss these proteins one by one. So you have to remember that the molecules which are not diffused through the plasma membrane, or which are highly impermeable, which cannot move through this plasma membrane, which cannot take entry inside the cells. So these molecules, they move inside the cells. They can take entry in the cells with the help of the carrier proteins, with the help of receptors, with the help of enzymes, or with the help of channel proteins. So these proteins are actually the transmembrane proteins. What are transmembrane proteins? Transmembrane proteins are the proteins which are present in the plasma membrane, which have outer as well as inner cellular domain. This is actually a protein which passes through the plasma membrane, which has outer as well as inner cellular domain. These proteins are tightly bound to the plasma membrane. These proteins cannot be removed from the plasma membrane. So if you try to remove them, the structure of the plasma membrane will be disrupted. So let us discuss the carrier proteins. So I will make the structure here. This is the plasma membrane. As you know, this is lipid bilayer. These are phospholipid molecules. These are phospholipid molecules. So this is actually a protein. This protein is transmembrane protein, or we can say this protein is intrinsic protein. This is the cytoplasmic phase, and this is the external environment of the cell. You will see this molecule is received by this transmembrane protein. When the molecule is received by this transmembrane protein, there is change in the structure of this protein, which is known as transformation. which is known as transformation. So when transformation occurs, when transformation occurs, the structure of the protein is changed here. You will see in next step what is happening to this protein. You will see the molecule take entry inside the cell. So that is why these impermeable molecules take entry inside the cells with the help of this carrier protein. So you will see the transmembrane protein has received only a single solute molecule from one side of the cell, and this molecule has take entry inside the cell. So this is the single solute molecule, and this protein is known as the unipolar. This is known as the unipolar, and this kind of transformation is known as unipotation. This is the one-way method of transportation across plasma membrane. Now we will discuss the second method. I will make the structure here. I will make this is the structure of the plasma membrane. These are phospholipid molecules. This is also a transmembrane protein. This transmembrane protein has received two molecules. When this molecule is received by this protein, there is always a change in the structure of the protein, which is known as transformation. When transformation occurs, the structure is changed. The molecules they take entry inside the cell. This is the nucleus, and this is the cytoplasmic phase. So in that transportation, the protein has received the two molecules. So this kind of transportation is known as co-transportation. This is known as the co-transportation, and this kind of transportation is known as semiportation. This is known as semiportation. Because the protein has received the two molecules from the same side of the plasma membrane, okay, and that is why it is known as semiportation. Okay, and this is the second way of transportation. I will discuss the third way here. This is the plasma membrane. I have made the structure of the plasma membrane. I have to make it again and again in order to understand the concept of the transportation across plasma membrane. Okay, this is also a transmembrane protein. So this transmembrane protein has received a molecule from the external environment of the cell, and it simultaneously it also received a molecule from the cytoplasmic phase of the cell.